My family called me a failure for working retail while I saved every penny. At Thanksgiving, they laughed when I said I wasn't bringing wine until I pulled up in a Porsche. Their mouths dropped. I never planned to share this publicly, but after the phone call I got this morning from Uncle Greg, I just need to put it somewhere. Sorry if the formatting's weird. I'm typing this on my lunch break, sitting in the stockroom between boxes of winter coats and unsold Halloween clearance. Yeah, I still work that small job everyone loves to joke about. Retail. Assistant floor manager. 2 steps above seasonal help, 2 steps below anyone my family respects. Let's back up a little. I'm 29 years old. I've been working in retail since I was 19, ever since I dropped out of college after 1 semester. Not because I partied too hard or failed out, I just couldn't afford it. FAFSA said my parents made too much money. My parents said I needed to learn to stand on my own 2 feet. So I did. I got a job at a local department store. Folded jeans. Scanned barcodes. Took 1,000 variations of, "Do you work here?" from people who didn't even make eye contact. 10 years later, I'm still in the game. Different store, better position, slightly higher pay. Still not impressive enough to make me visible at Thanksgiving. My cousin Travis is a venture capitalist. Whatever the hell that means. My older sister runs some PR firm in Chicago and posts motivational quotes on LinkedIn like it's a second religion. My younger brother is finishing med school and already has a fiancé and a golden retriever. Me? I clock in. I clock out. I live in a studio apartment where the oven doubles as extra storage space. But here's the thing no one in my family knows. I've saved almost 70% of every paycheck since I was 21. No, I don't make 6 figures. I don't drive a luxury car or eat out 5 nights a week. I pack my lunch. I drink the break room coffee. I live cheap, not because I have to anymore, but because I learned early that the world isn't fair and money equals options. So I made a plan, lived small, invested quietly, index funds mostly, a few ETFs, some crypto in 2016 that I sold at the right time. Not flashy, just consistent. But if you asked my family, I'm still just a retail guy. It's not like they've ever said it to my face exactly. My family's not direct like that. They're passive-aggressive professionals. Must be nice, not having to bring work home with you. My Aunt Carol once said while dicing sweet potatoes like they'd personally offended her. "Oh, don't worry about bringing anything to the dinner, Ben," Uncle Greg said last year. "We know you're on a budget." Even my mom, God bless her, once whispered to my sister while she thought I was out of earshot, "He's a late bloomer. Some people just find their path later." I found my path. It just doesn't come with a business card or a 5-year plan. Thanksgiving was coming up again, and like every year I debated skipping it. I love parts of it. The food, the quiet moments with my grandma before everyone gets loud, the drive through the old neighborhood. But then there's the part where I become invisible at the dinner table while everyone praises Travis's angel investments and Liz's firm landing a new corporate contract. This year, I got the group text from Aunt Carol a week in advance. "Carol, fam chat. Thanksgiving dinner at our place again. Everyone bring your usual dish/drinks. Can't wait to see all your beautiful faces. Ben, don't stress about bringing wine. Just bring yourself. Just bring yourself." Translation: don't embarrass us with your off-brand Merlot. I didn't respond right away. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I locked my phone and went back to restocking fleece jackets on aisle 7. Later that night, I looked at my accounts again. Not for reassurance, just a habit. Savings, investments, side hustle income from flipping rare sneakers online. All neatly categorized, color-coded, growing. And that's when the idea started to form. I wasn't angry exactly, just done. Done letting people decide my worth based on the title under my name. Done pretending I didn't notice the smirks when I mentioned work. Done laughing politely at their little just retail jokes. So I made a quiet decision. Thanksgiving would be different this year. I kept my normal routine. Woke up early. Hit the gym before work. Cooked at home. Watched YouTube videos on real estate and long-term wealth strategies in the evenings. But I also started car shopping. Not browsing. Shopping. It wasn't an impulse buy. I've been thinking about getting a car for over a year. My old Civic still ran, but barely. The heater whined, the AC didn't work, and it had more warning lights than a Christmas tree. But I'd held off because I didn't need to impress anyone, and I still don't. But I wanted this not for them, for me. I paid cash. No financing. No cosigner. No help from mom and dad. Just clean money saved by a so-called failure who folds clothes for a living. Porsche Cayman. Midnight blue. 2-seater. 0 to 60 in way faster than anyone expected of me. The dealership guy kept saying, "You sure you don't want to finance this? You've got excellent credit." I smiled and slid the cashier's check across the desk. "I'm sure. I didn't post about it. Didn't tell a soul. Not even my roommate. Just parked it in the underground garage, covered it, and waited for Thanksgiving." The closer it got, the more the tension built. Not dread, more like anticipation. Like I was sitting on a secret. A big, gleaming, German-engineered secret. Then 2 nights before the big day, I got a call from my mom. "Hey, sweetheart. Just checking you're still coming Thursday." "Yeah, I'll be there. You don't have to bring anything." Aunt Carol said, "I know," I cut in. "I'll just bring myself." There was a pause. Then her usual soft sigh. "You know we're proud of you, right?" I didn't answer right away. "Sure, Mom." I barely slept the night before. Not because of nerves, more like electricity buzzing under my skin. It wasn't about revenge. I wasn't going there to humiliate anyone or prove a point. I just wanted to walk into that house knowing, finally, that I had nothing to apologize for. That I didn't need to shrink myself to make other people comfortable. The morning of, I pulled the cover off the Porsche and stood there for a second, just looking at it. The way the paint caught the light. The soft leather interior. The key fob that still felt surreal in my hand. I slid into the driver's seat, turned the engine, and the thing purred like a secret. It was time. The drive to Aunt Carol's house took 40 minutes. 40 minutes of traffic, old radio hits, and the sound of my own thoughts echoing louder than the music. I kept both hands on the steering wheel like I was still learning to drive, even though I'd taken this route 100 times. But this was the first time I was driving it in a car people actually looked at. I thought about parking down the street, letting the moment wait. But something in me, maybe a quiet, coiled version of myself that had been sitting in the back row for years, said, "No. Park in the driveway. You earned that spot." So I did. The house looked the same as it always did. Oversized wreath on the door. Plastic turkey decorations still taped to the windows like Aunt Carol hadn't realized her kids were too old for them. The familiar row of SUVs and crossovers was already lined up on the curb. Travis's Audi. Liz's leased Tesla. All shining like teeth in a smug smile. I grabbed the small dessert I'd baked. Yeah, I still brought something, and headed to the door. No one answered when I knocked, so I let myself in. The sound hit me first. Laughter, clinking glasses, and Travis's voice dominating the room like a podcast no one asked to listen to. And I told the guy, "Look, if you're not putting in 50K minimum, you're not serious about growth." Of course. The smell of cinnamon and turkey wrapped around me. It should have been comforting. It wasn't. Not this year. I stepped into the living room and got the usual half-greetings. Aunt Carol waved vaguely from the kitchen. My mom smiled like she was proud I hadn't gotten lost. My dad gave me that firm shoulder squeeze that somehow always felt like try harder next time. And Travis? He glanced up from his whiskey and said, "Ben, you made it, man." Like he'd been hoping I wouldn't. "Wouldn't miss it," I said. I placed the dessert on the counter, cranberry crumble bars, nothing fancy, and reached for a glass of water. "Oh, you didn't bring wine?" Aunt Carol asked without looking at me. "Here we go." "Nope," I said. "Just the dessert." Carol clicked her tongue. "Well, I told you not to worry about it, but we are a little short." Liz chimed in from the dining room. "It's okay, I brought 2 bottles. Travis brought the expensive stuff anyway." Of course he did. I nodded and took a sip of water. No apology. No embarrassment. Just that familiar sense of being quietly sidelined while everyone else congratulated themselves for showing up with style. Dinner was called early. Everyone gathered around the table, the big one with the extra leaves added so it could seat 14. I ended up in one of the fold-out chairs at the corner, next to the swinging door to the kitchen. Fitting. Before we started eating, Uncle Greg stood up, holding his wine glass like it was a microphone. Let's go around and say what we're thankful for this year. Just a quick one. Family tradition. It wasn't a tradition. He'd made it up 2 years ago when Liz got promoted and Travis closed some funding round. But sure, Liz went first, thanking her team and her clients and growth in all areas of life. Travis followed, talking about scaling success and new beginnings. His girlfriend added something about shared vision. Mom said she was thankful for her children and their many accomplishments. Eyes shining as she glanced between Liz and my brother Marcus, who wasn't even here because of his hospital shift. When it got to me, I just said, thankful for cranberry bars, and gave a half smile. A few polite laughs. A few exchanged looks. Travis smirked. That was the moment I could feel the shift. The familiar pressure settling into my chest like a hand. The kind that used to make me go quiet, make myself small, make jokes at my own expense before anyone else could. I felt it, recognized it, and this time I let it pass. I didn't shrink. I just listened. As dinner went on, the conversation got louder, looser. Wine glasses refilled. Liz bragged about some influencer her agency had landed. Carol raved about Marcus's residency. No one asked me about work. At first I thought maybe it was kindness, sparing me the awkwardness. But then I realized they didn't ask because they didn't care. Or worse, they assumed there was nothing worth asking. Until Travis, fork halfway to his mouth, looked at me and said, "You still at that place?" "What was it? The clothing store?" "Yeah, still there," I replied. He nodded, chewing. "Solid. Good for you, man. Retail's gotta be rough these days." "It's steady," I said. "Any plans to move up?" he asked, with a tilt to his voice that turned it from interest to judgment. I met his eyes. "I already did." He blinked, then chuckled. Right. Assistant. Something, right? Floor manager. Got it," he said, dragging out the words like he was reading subtitles in a foreign film. I felt my mom shift beside me, not defending me, not correcting him, just waiting for the moment to pass. Carol, trying to lighten the mood, chimed in, "Hey, as long as you're happy, that's what matters. Not everyone needs to be chasing millions, right?" "Exactly," Liz said. "I mean, not all of us can survive in corporate." Travis raised his glass. "To stability." I clinked mine against his without smiling. That's when Aunt Carol turned and asked, "Oh, by the way, what wine did you say you were bringing, Ben?" "I didn't," I said. "Oh, right," she said, laughing. "We forgot. You're being good with money this year." The room laughed. It wasn't cruel exactly. It wasn't sharp or mean. It was worse. It was casual, comfortable, familiar. My hands curled slightly in my lap. Not fists, not anger, just pressure. A coiled something. I smiled. Yeah, saving up for something big. They all nodded like that meant a new apartment or maybe a vacation. Something safe. Something small. "Smart," Greg said. "You gotta plan ahead when you're not raking it in." And that was that. Dessert came. People complimented the pie. Someone said my bars were surprisingly good. I helped clear plates, took out the trash, washed my own dishes, quiet and helpful like always. When it was time to go, I said my thank yous, gave the usual hugs, and stepped outside into the cold night air. That's when I heard it. "Is that a Porsche?" someone said behind me. I didn't turn around. I just clicked the key fob. The headlights blinked once, sharp and deliberate. "Oh my God," Liz said. Ben, that's yours." I turned then, saw the whole crowd paused in the doorway. Travis already halfway down the steps. Carol holding her wine glass like it was suddenly too heavy. "Yeah," I said simply. "Picked it up last week." Travis laughed. Short, incredulous. Wait, that's yours." "Yep." He squinted. "What? Did you win the lottery or something?" "Nope." There was a silence. The kind that stretches and thins like glass about to shatter. "Paid off?" Greg asked, voice tight. "Completely." Another pause. "How?" Carol finally said, no longer laughing. I save, I said. And I invest. Been doing it for years. No one spoke. Liz looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Travis looked down at the car again, then back at me. You serious? He said. I met his eyes. Dead serious. I watched it happen, the realization landing like bricks. That all the years they'd whispered, smirked, written me off, I'd been building. Quietly, relentlessly. And now I had more than just a car. I had the truth. The silence after I said it. I save. And I invest. Been doing it for years. Was thick. Not dramatic, not explosive. Just thick. Like someone had poured syrup over the entire front yard, and no one knew how to move through it. Travis let out a half laugh. You're messing with us. I didn't answer. Just stood next to the car, hands in my jacket pockets, the cool metal of the key fob pressing against my palm. Ben, Aunt Carol started, with that soft tone people use when they're trying to make sense of something that doesn't compute. You bought this? Yourself. Cash, I said. No loan. No cosigner. No parents. My mom made a sound behind her lips, like she'd just bitten into something sour and wasn't sure if she was allowed to spit it out. Liz stepped forward, heels crunching against the gravel. I don't understand, she said, eyebrows drawn. You work retail, and I live beneath my means, I said. Invested most of my income. Side hustles. Discipline. Boring stuff. No one laughed. Not this time. Greg scratched the back of his neck. So you're saying you've been sitting on this kind of money and just not telling anyone? I shrugged. Didn't think anyone was listening. The power of the moment wasn't in the car. It wasn't even in the money. It was in watching their entire perception system reboot in real time. Every joke. Every backhanded comment. Every time they told me I was too smart to waste my life folding clothes. It all rushed back to them. Only now they realized the punchline wasn't me. It never was. I mean, good for you, Liz said, trying to smile, trying to make it not about her, which was already hard for her. Wow, Travis muttered. I guess I underestimated you. You did, I said plainly. He didn't even flinch, just nodded, swallowing it like dry toast. I opened the car door and tossed the jacket inside. That could have been the end of it. Leave them blinking in my exhaust while I drove off into the night. But something in me said not yet. Not until I said what needed saying. So I turned back. You know what's funny? I said, looking at no one in particular. Every Thanksgiving, I've sat at that table listening to you all talk about success. Promotions. Big deals. Instagram followers. And I let you treat me like background noise. Like a cautionary tale. Ben, my mom started. No one ever. Yes, I said, sharper now. You did. Maybe not in so many words. But I've spent 10 years being tolerated. Not celebrated. Not respected. Just tolerated. And I let it happen, because I thought that was the price of being the disappointment. No one interrupted. I used to go home from these dinners and wonder what I'd done wrong. Why I didn't measure up. Why nothing I said seemed to matter. I looked at Travis. You once told your girlfriend I worked at the mall and lived off granola bars. His mouth opened slightly, like he might deny it, then closed again. I nodded. I remember all of it. Aunt Carol looked like she wanted to say something. Apologize, maybe, or spin it all into one big misunderstanding. But she didn't. Here's the thing, I said. I'm not mad. I'm not even hurt anymore. I just realized I don't need to explain my life to people who never bothered to ask about it. I turned to my mom. I love you, but I needed you to stand up for me. Just once. And you never did. Her lip trembled. I didn't know, she whispered. You didn't ask, I said. Travis stepped forward, hands in his pockets, his usual smirk replaced with something more human. So what now? He asked. You rub it in our faces and disappear? I looked at him for a long second. No, I just stopped pretending I'm the failure in this family. He let out a breath. Fair. Also, I added, next year someone else can bring the wine. Carol actually laughed, short and awkward, but it cracked the silence just enough for everyone to exhale. I still don't get how you did it, Liz said. Like really? You must have made some lucky calls. Maybe, I said. But luck's not magic. It's just what happens when discipline meets time. Greg gave a low whistle. Well, I'll be damned. I slipped into the driver's seat and shut the door. The engine rumbled to life like a purr laced with thunder. Travis stepped to the side as I backed out. Just before I pulled away, I rolled the window down. Happy Thanksgiving, I said. No sarcasm. No smugness. Just me. Then I drove off. The highway was empty. Moonlight on the hood. Some lo-fi beat humming from the speakers. I didn't feel triumphant. Not exactly. I felt clean. Like I'd finally wiped off something that had been sticking to me for years. Something invisible but heavy. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was free. The Porsche still smelled like leather and new beginnings when I got home. I pulled into my building's garage and just sat there for a while, engine off, listening to the quiet. The kind of quiet that wasn't about loneliness, it was something else. Like the silence after a thunderstorm. The moment when everything's still wet but the air is clear. I thought I'd feel more victorious. Like a movie ending with triumphant music playing in the background. But instead I felt calm. Grounded. Like I'd finally walked out of a room where I'd been holding my breath for years. I opened the door to my apartment and dropped my keys in the little dish I kept by the entrance. The space was still small. Studio-sized. Same creaky floorboard by the kitchen, same chipped paint near the bathroom light switch. But it felt different now. Because now I knew I was here by choice. I spent the rest of the evening doing what I always did. Heated up leftovers. Watched half an episode of some show I'd already seen twice. Checked my investments. Read a bit. Fell asleep with my socks still on. And it was perfect. The next morning, my phone lit up with messages. Mom, hope you got home safe. Call me later, okay? Love you. Liz, hey. You really surprised everyone last night. In a good way. Travis, we should talk sometime. I think I owe you a drink or 3. I didn't answer right away. Not because I was angry. I just didn't owe them anything in that moment. For once, I wasn't sitting by the phone hoping for recognition. Instead, I made coffee. The cheap kind, still brewed in my old pour-over cone. I sat by the window watching the early sun hit the opposite building and realized I was smiling. Not big. Not movie poster smiling. Just steady. Over the next few days, the tone in my family shifted. Carol invited me to her birthday dinner in December, said she wanted me to bring that amazing energy again. Greg texted asking for my opinion on ETFs. Liz sent me a link to some article about the rise of stealth wealth with a little winking emoji. Even my mom started asking more questions instead of giving unsolicited advice. I wasn't naive enough to think everything had changed. Old patterns don't vanish overnight. But the balance had shifted. And I had no interest in pushing it back to where it was. The following weekend, I did something I'd been putting off for a while. I cleaned out my closet. Not just the clothes. The papers. The boxes. The memories. I found old pay stubs from my first job at 19. $8.75 an hour. I used to scan those numbers and calculate exactly how many hours I'd need to cover rent, groceries, and a $30 monthly Metro pass. I held one of them in my hand for a long time, then folded it in half and slid it into the recycling bin. Then I pulled out a shoebox from the very back. Inside, birthday cards with impersonal signatures, old family photos where I was always slightly off to the side, notes to myself written in the margins of spiral notebooks, things like, you don't need to be loud to be strong or let them underestimate you. I kept those. A few days later, I went to visit my grandmother. She lived in a small assisted living facility outside the city. She hadn't been at Thanksgiving, her mobility wasn't what it used to be. But she called me that morning, said she'd heard I made a bit of a splash and asked if I could stop by. So I did. She greeted me in the common area wearing a cardigan that looked 2 sizes too big and a smirk that looked exactly right. Come to show off your sports car, Benjamin, she asked as I wheeled her back to her room. I laughed. You haven't even seen it. Oh, honey, I don't have to. I can hear it in their voices. We sat by her window with some herbal tea she insisted on making, even though it tasted like boiled grass. You know, she said, your grandfather worked retail his whole life. Hardware store. Never made much, but we got by. I didn't know that. Course you didn't. No one talks about it. They all like to pretend money just appears for people who deserve it. She looked out the window. You made your own way. That's rare in this family. I didn't say anything for a minute. Then she reached over, took my hand. I'm proud of you, she said. Not because you bought something shiny, but because you stayed you. Even when they didn't see you. I blinked hard and nodded. It meant more than I could say. By the time Christmas rolled around, I'd accepted that this year was going to feel different. I wasn't the underdog anymore. Not the background character. And that came with its own kind of discomfort. Travis asked me to grab coffee, just us. I agreed. We met at some overpriced cafe downtown. He showed up late, wearing a coat that probably cost more than my rent, and ordered a latte with 3 customizations. You really surprised me, he said, stirring slowly. I mean, I figured you were doing okay, but that car? That kind of savings? Damn, man. Yeah, I said. I figured you'd be the last person I'd surprise. He laughed. Honestly, same. There was a pause. I think I owe you an apology, he said. I wasn't kind. I looked at him. No, you weren't. But you handled it better than I would have. I mean, if the roles were reversed, I would have thrown it in everyone's face. I smiled. Believe me, I considered it. He grinned. Glad you didn't. Would have made me feel worse. I shrugged. Not my job to make you feel anything. We sat there for a while. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like we were playing roles, golden child versus quiet one. We were just 2 people. And I liked that. In the months that followed, things found a new rhythm. I didn't upgrade my apartment. Didn't quit my job. Didn't suddenly start posting financial flexes on Instagram. I just lived. Quieter but steadier. I started mentoring a few younger coworkers who reminded me of myself 10 years ago, unsure, underestimated, quietly brilliant. I set up an automatic donation from my investment account to a local youth program. I started writing again, just for me. I even took a weekend trip alone to Colorado and hiked a trail I dreamed about since I was a kid. No one asked where I went. No one needed to. It wasn't about being seen anymore. It was about finally seeing myself. Then one afternoon in early spring, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a bottle of wine, a really nice one, and a small card with 6 words written in neat, familiar handwriting. You've earned a seat at the table. I knew it was from my mother. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the outsider looking in. I felt like the door had always been there, I just finally stopped asking for permission to walk through it.